This video undoubtedly will be one of the more difficult videos I've ever made on my channel. And that's for several reasons. And though I'm not available to any woman watching this video, I am still very much concerned about the overall state of Western women, more specific, American women. And the reason I'm concerned is because women are the pawns on this sick maniacal chessboard for the elitist. And women are the recipients and targets of the most potent forms of social engineering. Social engineering designed to destroy the very fabric of this nation. And me knowing how important and how valuable women are and how integral they are for any functioning society, I felt compelled to make this video. And I want to get one thing straight. This is not a gender war video. I don't engage in senseless semantics centered around circular arguments where people just stroke their ego back and forth. There is no gender war. It's nonsense. This video is purely about stating my position, a position that you don't even have to agree with. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just stating my perspective in hopes that you will do, if nothing else, answer the question, or at least ask the question that I pose. Have women relinquished their true greatness and power in exchange for embracing Luciferian hyperliberal ideologies designed to keep them in a state of delusion? That's my question. Stay tuned. What's up, guys? It's Indigo Row. Thanks for tuning in. So I believe it was 1941 when women were allowed to enter the workforce. And initially it was all single women. There were no married women entering the workforce, but I think 2 or 3 years after 1941, approximately 80% of married women had entered the workforce in some form or fashion. And naturally, because all of this was done around wartime, the puppeteers were able to use nationalist propaganda and patriotism propaganda to limit a lot of the resistance from married men and men in general that didn't want women to enter the workforce, because they had some level of foresight to see what it would ultimately lead to. And of course, we know decades later we had the feminist movement come to pass and so on and so forth. I don't want to get too deep into that because I'm trying not to digress a lot in this video, although I know it's coming. And right on time, here's one right now. One of the great magic tricks, if you will, the government and these Marxist banking factions were able to pull off is to convince women that they had their best interests at heart. And it was all about liberating them because they were so oppressed. They did a great job of manipulating women into believing this, when in all actuality, it had nothing to do with that. The implementation of women into the workforce and just liberating women. And I hate saying that because when you say liberating women, there's this denotion that somehow the women were slaves, and which is just more propaganda. And that's the power of buzzwords. That's the reason why certain demographics and certain political groups use buzzwords, because they work on a subconscious level, and that's extremely toxic. But nonetheless, it had nothing to do with giving them all of these liberties because they saw them as an oppressed people. It was about not only introducing a new tax slave into this financial paradigm, but also they knew they had the foresight because they spend millions and billions of dollars into studying the behavior of human beings, especially a society, especially Western society. They knew that they could destabilize the social fabric in this country by implementing women into the workforce. They knew that they would cripple families. They knew that corporations would make much more money because if the woman was working, she's going to spend her money. And they knew this, they understood this. So it was never about them seeing you as some victim. That's just the games they play. As I was saying that, here comes a digress moment. It even made me think about the civil rights era and how there is a popular opinion and popular thought that the characters involved in the civil rights era had so-called black people's best interests at heart, when it wasn't that at all. It was very similar to the implementation of women into the workforce. It had a lot to do with bringing in more tax slaves. Now, those are surface level things. On a deeper level, it had a lot to do with stopping the actual progress of so-called black people during that period of time. And I could go hard on that, but that's not the topic of this video. I'm just using that as another example of how they quote unquote pretend to have a certain group's best interest at heart, when it's really all about serving themselves. But back to women. So now at this point, we have so-called black women, so-called white women entering the workforce. And now we have a melting pot of different ethnicities in this country, and all of the women of those groups are allowed to work, and they're allowed to quote unquote be independent. So now I'll get to the actual crux of this video. As I've stated, doctrines like independence, equality, and women empowerment and feminism, all these type of things, they're designed to be very much to the woman's detriment. They really are. And if you don't believe me, ask yourself the question: what has it done? What has it done for women, these movements? I ask that in all seriousness, because the data doesn't support that it's made your life better. No data supports that having all of the liberties that the oppressed woman had, 100 years ago. None of the data supports that this liberation has done good things for you. In fact, it points to it having done very terrible things to you. Women in America, just America. We're not talking about the entire Western Hemisphere. Women in America are the most medicated group in the world when it comes to things like antidepressants, bipolar medication, all of the medications that deal with psychological and mental instability. But of course, you won't hear this spoken of. You'll only know if you go search diligently. Not to mention, what's happened to the family dynamic with all of this liberation? There was a point in time when women were quote unquote homemakers, that children scored much higher on their tests. There was much less violence among children. Women actually paid attention to their children. The television wasn't raising children like it does today. And again, you have so many different factors at play here. For instance, there was a point in time where a man could be the sole breadwinner in his house, and he could afford a home, a car, at least one family vehicle, take care of everything that needed to be taken care of in a home. But of course, we have inflation, this greedy Fed, because money isn't real, so they print it like it is. And of course, you're gonna have the cost of goods and services skyrocket. And of course, that's happened. But that's what happens also when you put more money into the pot. When there were only men in the workforce, there was enough jobs. But when you flood the market with another group, when you allow women to enter the workforce, you know what that does? And this brings me to another point to my position of, really, the question was posed, have women, but I know the answer to the question. Have women relinquish their greatness and power in the pursuit of liberal ideologies, Luciferian ideologies? In America, in the Western world specifically, but in America, from the time a little girl starts school, she's in direct opposition with males. Now, I don't mean to get scriptural on you, but the enmity already exists between men and women as it is. This goes all the way back to the fall of man. And whether you believe in the scriptures or not, I really don't care. I'm just telling you, the proof is in the pudding. But this enmity existed long back then, so it's not like it's new. But how much more would you exacerbate that when you inject into a society competition on a surface level, not just on a spiritual level, but within the workforce? Now women can compete for my job. And on a surface level, I really don't have any issue with it, because women are human beings. Men aren't better than women. Women aren't better than men. That's not what this is about. What it's about is chaos, the disruption of order. Now you have a situation where you directly affect and attack the family. When you have women competing with men in the workforce, guess what that's going to do in the house? They're going to compete with men in the house. Consider the friction and enmity that will give birth to. Now, I think this country has a 53% divorce rate, with the vast majority of those divorces being initiated by women. And I know it may seem like I'm all over the place, but this thing is so layered that it's hard to just be concise and just stay on one topic, because it's all connected. But again, this place breeds enmity between men and women. Relationships really never have a chance. It's hard to. When people forego roles and forego order in exchange for chaos and liberation, you're going to have these type of things happen. And that brings me back. What has these doctrines really done for women? The statistics show that women are grossly alone. You know what? Let me take that back. The numbers indicate that they're alone because marriage is down. Marriage is down. But the numbers also indicate that women are lonely. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. And if you don't get that, you have to. I don't want to digress into that, because again, that's an entirely different video. But women in America are very lonely. Very lonely. It's why they cling tight to their bottles of wine and their prescription medication. And of course, the pursuit of happiness that's propagated in this society is naturally going to contribute to that, which that's folly within itself, because if you're pursuing happiness, that's a futile task. It's not going to happen. Happiness is very fleeting. It's not meant to be a state of existence. You're not meant to dwell there. It's momentary. What every woman and what every man should be seeking is peace. If you seek peace, you can be sustained. You can rest in peace, but not happiness. The numbers indicate that they're lonely and they're highly medicated. So that goes to show you that there's something missing. And behind all of that, I don't need a man, and I can raise this boy by myself, or I can do the same thing that, a man can do. Behind all of that bluster and all that self-delusion, internally, she knows she's lonely. Internally, she knows there's something missing. And what's missing is order. No, you don't need a male, but you need a man. The same way a man has an innate desire to have his wife or wives, depending on your cultural beliefs, a woman desires her head. She desires her covering. It's innate. It's built into your DNA from creation. It's not something you can escape. Now, you can be distracted, because you can go on social media and listen to women talk all kind of nonsense all damn day. But at the end of the day, when you put your head on that pillow, or when you're sitting in your cubicle, you ain't got nothing to do, and you're looking around, or you go out to dinner and you see some woman hee-heeing and ha-haing with her man and cuddle up with her man, you want that. Even beyond all of this sick, demonic hip-hop music from people like, you know who they are. You know who they are. You know, the ones who are propagating promiscuity. And I mean, I really want to go in on that, but I'm not. The point is, even amongst all that, you can jam that in your car and you can shake your head and throw your hair all around. You know innately deep down that you need order, you need stability. So I ask, what has these liberal philosophies and teachings and doctrines done for women? Women are more unhappy now, statistically, not just from a statistical standpoint, but just observationally. Women are unhappy. They're just unhappy. Nobody can argue that. Their spirits are all over the place. And there is no bigger indicator of this than social media. Just go on social media and just look. You're going to see blatant mental illness that you don't have to be a healthcare provider to diagnose. It's that blatant. And it's a laugh to keep from crying thing, because I think it's sad and it's so unnecessary. But this is what happens when you embrace doctrines that are not in your best interest, by factions who aim to use you to destroy men. Because no matter how much propaganda they feed you about how you're equal to a man and how you can do the same things a man can do and all this stuff, this is all designed to deceive you, to create a theoretical nirvana for you. It's not real. And, by the way, no two things in the universe are actually equal. Women are not equal to men. Men are not equal to women. Men do things and have things and possess things that the Most High has endowed them with that women don't have, and vice versa. The great trick, the great trick of all time, is the elitist agenda that's been disseminated by way of gross propaganda through groups through doctrines such as feminism and equality and all that nonsense. The greatest trick they've ever pulled off is convincing a woman to relinquish the thing that makes her great. That's being a woman. Being a woman should be enough. The same way being a man is enough for me, being a woman should be enough for you. You know why? Because women are fantastic. Women are great. Women are critical. You cannot sustain a society without them. But there's a caveat. Women are great. Women are critical. Women are integral. Women are important if they're in their right mind. The powers that be aim to make sure that you're not in your right mind. Because if you're in your right mind, you're a powerful helpmeet for your man. And when the man has a powerful, supportive helpmeet who understands her role and is magnified in her role, she's powerful in that role because she understands how critical she is to the entire system. That makes that group of men more powerful against the machine. That puts the machine in harm's way. See, it's all about making sure you neuter the man. That's what this engineering is about. It's about neutering the American man so that he poses no threat whatsoever to the system. How do you do that? Well, You put him in the house with a woman that runs his ass crazy. You put him in the house with a woman who's embraced Luciferian ideologies. And we're talking about males here. A man won't even put himself in that environment. I've been a male in my life before. I've been a male. Hell, I mean, if we want to be honest, I've been a male longer than I've been a man. But when a male becomes a man and he's into his fullness, he understands that there's only certain things that he's going to even tolerate. So that's why I say women are right. In theory, they don't need a male, but a man you definitely need. But anyway, the powers that be knows that if they have a neutered, broken, weak man who spends his time worshiping his woman, how can he be of any threat to them? Why do you think things are happening the way that they are? The government, by way of corporations, are doing all the things that they're doing because they don't sense any resistance. The man is neutered, and his woman has been used to do it. So again, what has feminism, equality, all of these liberal ideologies that were designed to make you feel like you were oppressed and now somehow you're free, where's the good in it? Where is the good in it? Other than it being self-serving, other than it allowing you being women, to create a mythical reality, a theoretical nirvana that just doesn't exist. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't. This is a subject that I could speak on for hours. It truly is, but I know you don't have that, and I certainly don't have that. But I wanted to get this video out because it was my hope that you would ingest the things that I'm telling you. But at the bare minimum, I wanted you to be able to feel free to ask yourself the question. You must ask yourself the question. I'm talking to you, women. I'm talking to you. This video is for you. You have to ask yourself how the embracing of these doctrines have helped you. And you have to be honest with yourself about it. Don't ask yourself the question from an emotional standpoint, because then you're liable to get triggered. Then you're liable to have emotional provocation. That's not what I'm after. I want you to ask yourself the question because I want you to understand that if you don't ask yourself the question and come to the logical conclusion, this place is going to get worse. Think about your children. I mean, the numbers don't lie. They don't lie at all. You need a man in your house. Go look at the data of what happens to children when they don't have a man in the house. And you know I'm all about offend to awaken, so I don't care if you're offended by this. When I say a man in the house, I'm talking about that child's father. I'm talking about that child's father. And guess what? The government, the corporations, universities, marketing campaigns, all of this shit, none of this stuff holds you accountable, but I'm willing to do so. Guess what? And I know this is hard, but this is the price of living in a Babylonian society. You're going to have to do a proper job of vetting the man that you lay down with. Because if you get pregnant by that man, you've perpetuated a cycle. You get pregnant by that male. Let me take that back. By that male who exhibits all the signs of somebody that ain't shit. That's your fault. I don't want to go back and forth with contraceptives and, he could have done this. Your body, your choice. You lay down with a male and you let him get you pregnant. You're part of the problem. And I'm going somewhere with this. Every time you lay down with a male and you produce a child and that child's father is not in that home, go look at the data. See what that likely sets that child up for. The percentages are astronomical when it comes to the likelihood of children being molested when there's not a man in the house. The chances of children being involved in violent crime, joining gangs, going to prison, children becoming teen mothers, teen fathers, when there's not a man in the house. Naturally, these numbers are even higher with certain demographics. We don't have to break it down. We know what demographics these numbers are higher in. We don't have to play games. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to be more selective. Because guess what? We can't produce men if we don't have men and women working in tandem to produce men and women. And I got a news flash for you. A woman cannot raise a boy into a man. She can't. And look, I'm willing to go that extra mile to explain to you why. It's not because you don't have a penis, because having a penis has nothing to do with a man, maybe anatomically, biologically. And hell, according to who you ask, that's debatable. Anyway, it takes a man to raise a boy into a man because a man possesses the masculine principle. He's the one that's going to take that thing that lies dormant in that boy and make it manifest by teaching him things that you cannot. This is not a matter of intellectual prowess. It's just not. When I say what I'm saying, and when I talk about him, when the man awakens the masculine principle in a boy, this has nothing to do with intellectual prowess. So you can't do it. You can't do it any more than a man can teach the feminine principle or awaken the feminine principle in a little girl. Can't do it. Man and woman and child are like a formula. You take an element away and it ceases to exist. And I hear a lot of women, all you gotta do is peruse social media, which now is funny because I'm only back on social media now because of my content, but I was off social media for 2 years. And when I came back, it was amazing. As toxic as it was before I left, I still saw tangible degradation when I returned. And I couldn't believe it. I can't believe the shit that women say on social media. I can believe the shit that men say because their ass is done. They either worship women or they've embodied the spirit of a woman. So it doesn't really surprise me as much with them. But when I look on social media and I hear women complaining about not having a good man, how the hell can you have a good man? And for this specific purpose, I'm going to talk about this demographic. I'm talking about one demographic, people who look like me. How can you have a good man if there's no man raising boys to be men? And we don't even have to get on. we don't even have to have the discussion about whether you quote unquote deserve a good man or not. We don't even have to get on there. I'm not even going to tackle that. That's for a different video. But just, you can't have good men if males are raising children. If some male is raising your bastard child. And I know I'm a bastard myself. Get Game of Thrones on you. I'm a bastard. So I know. It's by the will and the mercy. The Most High was with me. He awakened my masculine principle. I didn't have a man teach me how to be a man. I didn't have a man showing me how to use foresight, showing me how to deduce and analyze and think logically and reasonably, how to have the mentality of a king and a ruler. I didn't have that. The Most High gave that to me. But the odds of your son having that ain't very high. You want the best for your children? Have children with men. I ain't telling you who to lay down with and who not to lay down with. I mean, that's your business. I mean, we live in Babylon. This is a purely Luciferian society. In a proper society, a father would be getting his daughter's husband. But hey, that's for another video. We don't live in a proper society. In this society, you're allowed to choose a man. I mean, if he's 6'4", handsome, in shape, nice car, there you go. Those are your protocols. That's the list you go by. That's your business. Again, I don't know if you're gonna ingest anything that I'm telling you in this video. I just know it was put on my heart to make the video, and there'll be many videos similar following. I get the feeling that this could be a series within itself, because in this video I'm talking to women. Next video be talking to men. So, I don't know if you're going to ingest and process and uptake anything that I'm telling you. You should, but I don't know if you will. But again, just ask yourself the question: have you relinquished your true power, your greatness, and everything that is the essence of woman in exchange for a pseudo idea, a pseudo woman, where you're able to be as delusional as you want to be, where you're allowing Marxist factions and the government to control you and manipulate you and use you as a tool to sever the head of the man who should be your head and your covering? Ask yourself this question. Seriously. All right. I'm Indigo Row. I appreciate you guys tuning in. You like the content? Share, subscribe, and I see y'all in future videos. I'm out.